The deep hum of the ship's engines was a comfort to Captain James Reed. It reminded him that the United Earth warship Intrepid was alive and strong, just like its commander. Reed stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the vast starfield on the main view screen. "Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Communications Officer Tara Jones. Reed nodded. His weathered face showed little emotion, but the crew knew their captain well enough to sense his interest. Throughout the galaxy, Reed was known simply as the Warrior, the commander who had never lost a battle, who had faced down alien armadas with nothing but outdated weapons and pure human grit. "Put it through," Reed ordered. Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the screen. His expression was grim, his gray hair disheveled as if he hadn't slept in days. "Reed, we have a situation. The Crimson Fleet has been spotted near Colony XB-12. We've lost contact with the settlement." Reed's jaw tightened. The Crimson Fleet was a collection of advanced warships led by alien warlords who had already conquered 3 star systems. Their red-hulled vessels left nothing but destruction in their wake. "How many ships?" Reed asked. "Unknown. But this is just a recon mission, Reed. If the Crimson Fleet is there in force, you are to retreat and report back." "That's an order." Reed smiled slightly. "Understood, Admiral. Intrepid out." As the transmission ended, Reed turned to his first officer, Commander Mark Taylor. "Set course for XB-12, maximum speed." Taylor raised an eyebrow. "Sir, if the Crimson Fleet is there, then we'll finally get to see what these warlords are made of," Reed finished. XB-12 was a small colony, home to about 5,000 people, mostly farmers and scientists studying the unusual plant life on the planet. As the Intrepid dropped out of hyperspace, the bridge fell silent. Where a thriving colony should have been, there was only smoke and ruins. The once green fields were scorched black. The settlement's buildings had been reduced to rubble. "Scan for life signs," Reed ordered, his voice tight with controlled anger. Science Officer Dr. Lisa Wells shook her head after a moment. "No human life signs detected, Captain. But I'm reading unusual energy signatures across the colony." "On screen," Reed commanded. The view screen zoomed in on the colony. Glowing red patches dotted the landscape, pulsing with an eerie light. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Reed asked. "Unknown technology, sir. It appears to be testing something. The energy patterns suggest experimental weapons." Reed's fists clenched. "The Crimson Fleet is using our colonies as test sites for new weapons." "Sir," Tara called out, "I'm picking up a transmission. It's weak, but it's coming from the surface." "Put it through." The audio was filled with static, but a voice broke through. "They call themselves servants of the Nova Judges, testing us, deciding if we're worthy. The Nova Judges have returned." The message dissolved into static. Reed looked to his officers. "Nova Judges. Anyone heard of them?" Wells tapped at her console. According to old records, the Nova Judges were an ancient species that once ruled as galactic arbiters. They supposedly went extinct 10,000 years ago. "Seems the history books were wrong," Reed said grimly. The ship suddenly rocked violently. "We're under attack," shouted Taylor. 3 Crimson vessels decloaking behind us. Reed didn't hesitate. "Battle stations, shields at maximum. Tactical, target the lead ship's propulsion systems." The Intrepid spun around, its weapons charging. The 3 red warships were unlike anything Reed had seen before. Their hulls seemed to shimmer and change shape, adapting to the Intrepid's targeting systems. "They're scanning us, sir," Wells reported. "They're studying our responses." Reed understood immediately. This isn't an attack. It's an assessment. He tapped a command into his chair's console, overriding the tactical station. The Intrepid's weapons reconfigured, firing a complex pattern that no computer would devise. It was pure human intuition, Reed's specialty. The lead Crimson ship rocked as the unexpected attack pattern caught it off guard. Its shields fluctuated. Again, Reed ordered, "Show them we're not predictable." As the battle continued, Reed noticed the Crimson ships weren't fighting to win. They were recording the Intrepid's every move, every tactic. After 10 minutes of exchange, the Crimson vessels suddenly broke off and jumped to hyperspace. "Should we pursue, sir?" Taylor asked. Reed shook his head. "No, they got what they came for." Information. A new transmission came through from Earth Command. Admiral Wilson looked even more haggard than before. "Reed, we're receiving reports of Crimson Fleet activity in 6 systems now. The Admiralty is ordering all ships to defensive positions around Earth and main colonies. With respect, Admiral, defense won't work against an enemy that's studying how we fight. The Crimson Fleet is gathering data for someone else. These Nova judges." Wilson's face darkened. "You have your orders, Captain. Fall back to Earth." After the transmission ended, the bridge was silent, all eyes on Reed. They knew that look on his face. Reed stood up, plot a course following the Crimson Fleet's hyperspace trail. Taylor's eyes widened. "Sir, that's a direct violation of orders." "I know." Reed looked around at his crew. "I'm not asking anyone to risk their career. If any of you want to log a formal objection, I'll note it in the ship's record." No one spoke. These people had served with Reed for years. They trusted him. "The Nova judges, whoever they are testing humanity." Reed continued, "I don't intend to wait around for their verdict." He walked to the large view screen, looking out at the stars and the ruined colony below. "Throughout history, judges have only had power when we give it to them. These Nova judges think they can decide humanity's fate. Well, I intend to show them that humans judge themselves." Reed turned back to face his crew, his eyes burning with determination. "Set course for the Crimson Fleet's last known coordinates. It's time they learned why they call me the Warrior." As the Intrepid's engines roared to life, the ship broke orbit and shot into hyperspace, leaving behind the smoking ruins of XB-12, not as a retreat, but as a promise that those responsible would face humanity's own brand of justice. Reed stood on the bridge, watching the stars stretch into lines. For the first time in his career, he was deliberately disobeying orders. But deep in his gut, he knew this was bigger than Earth Command, bigger than his career. The Nova judges had returned, and Reed would not let them be the arbiters of humanity's future. The hunt had begun. The Intrepid dropped out of hyperspace near an abandoned space station. The massive structure floated silently against the backdrop of a dying red star, its once gleaming hull now pitted and dark. "Scanners show it's an old trading post," reported Dr. Wells, studying her console. "Abandoned about 50 years ago when this star began to destabilize." Captain Reed stood from his command chair and approached the view screen. "Any sign of the Crimson Fleet?" "Nothing on scanners, sir," replied Tactical Officer Marcus Blake, a young man with steady hands and sharp eyes. "But there's a lot of debris around the station. Recent battle damage." Reed nodded. They were here, probably using it as a rendezvous point. He turned to his alien engineer. "Trell, can we dock with that station?" Trell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of concentration among his people. His gray skin glistened under the bridge lights. "Yes, Captain. The main docking bay appears intact." "Prepare a boarding party," Reed ordered. "Blake, Wells, Trell, you're with me. Commander Taylor, you have the con. If anything happens, your first priority is to get the Intrepid back to Earth with whatever information we gather." Taylor frowned but nodded. "Understood, sir." The abandoned station was eerily quiet. Emergency lights cast red shadows across empty corridors as Reed led his team deeper into the structure. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. "This place gives me the creeps," Blake muttered, his hand hovering near his weapon. "Focus, Lieutenant," Reed replied. "Wells, what are you picking up?" Dr. Wells studied her scanner. "Energy readings up ahead. Some kind of data center, I think." They reached a large circular room filled with alien technology. Holographic displays flickered with symbols none of them recognized. "Can you make sense of this?" Reed asked Wells. She shook her head. "Not fully, but this appears to be surveillance data." She pointed to images of various planets. "They're watching multiple worlds. Human colonies, alien settlements, gathering data." Trell moved to a different console. "Captain, I recognize some of this technology. It's incredibly advanced, but it has elements similar to ancient artifacts my people preserved." "From the time of the Nova judges?" Reed asked. Trell nodded. "Yes, my ancestors recorded that the judges would study species for generations before rendering verdict." Reed's face darkened. "Verdict on what?" "Whether a species deserved to exist in the galaxy," Trell replied quietly. A sudden noise made them all turn. Reed drew his weapon in one smooth motion. "We're not alone," he whispered. From the shadows emerged three figures in crimson armor. Their helmets concealed their faces, but their movements were fluid, predatory. "Humans," one of them spoke, voice distorted by a translator. "You should not be here." Reed didn't lower his weapon. "We go where we please. This station doesn't belong to you." "It belongs to the judges," the crimson soldier replied. "As does the fate of your kind." "No one owns humanity's fate except humanity," Reed countered. The lead soldier tilted its head. "Interesting. Your defiance confirms the judge's concerns." Without warning, the three soldiers attacked. Reed dove behind a console as energy blasts scorched the wall behind him. Blake returned fire, dropping one of the attackers. "Cover me," Reed shouted, then rolled out from his position and charged the nearest soldier. The Crimson Warrior was fast, but Reed was fueled by something the alien couldn't understand: raw human determination. He tackled the soldier to the ground, wrestling the weapon away before knocking the helmet off. Underneath was a face with pale blue skin and entirely black eyes. The alien snarled, revealing sharp teeth. "The Nova judges will cleanse the galaxy of your chaos," it hissed. "I don't think so," Reed replied, knocking the alien unconscious with a swift strike. Blake had the third soldier cornered. "Sir, this one's trying to activate something." Reed rushed over, grabbing the soldier's arm before it could press a device on its wrist. With a quick twist, he forced the alien to the ground. "What were you activating?" Reed demanded. The alien laughed. "The truth." Suddenly, the room's holographic displays changed. A new image appeared, a being unlike any Reed had seen before. It appeared almost human, but its skin glowed with internal light, and its eyes held the depth of galaxies. "A Nova judge," Trell whispered in awe. The judge spoke, its voice resonating oddly, as if coming from everywhere at once. "Species 7293, designation, human. Assessment continues. Subjects demonstrate unpredictable behavior patterns and resistance to guidance. Probability of peaceful integration, low. Recommendation, containment." The message repeated, then faded. "They're studying us like lab rats," Blake said angrily. Reed turned to the conscious crimson soldier. "Why? What have we done to deserve judgment?" "It is not what you have done," the alien replied. "It is what you will do. Humans are chaotic, unpredictable. You do not follow logical patterns. The judges see the future paths of all species. Yours leads to destruction." Reed hauled the alien to its feet. "You're coming with us. I want to know everything about these judges." Back aboard the Intrepid, Reed gathered his senior officers. The captured soldier, now identified as Commander Vex of the Crimson Fleet, sat under guard. The Nova judges were believed extinct, Vex explained reluctantly. They retreated to the edge of the galaxy 10,000 years ago, after guiding the evolution of spacefaring civilizations. Now they have returned to find the galaxy in disorder, and they've appointed themselves as the ones to fix it. Reed asked. "They created this galaxy's order," Vex replied. "Many species welcome their return. Their judgment is fair and final. Dr. Wells shook her head. Fair according to whom? Who gave them the right to decide which species lives or dies? Power gives them the right. Vex said simply. They have established a tribunal. 12 species have already been judged. 7 found worthy. 5 sentenced to containment. Containment? Taylor asked. Restricted to their home systems, prevented from further expansion, Vex explained. Those who resist are removed. Reed's expression hardened. And humanity, what's our status? Under assessment, Vex replied. But your reputation precedes you, Captain Reed. Your unpredictability makes the judges uncomfortable. Reed smiled slightly. Good. He turned to the view screen, where the abandoned station was still visible. The judges want to put humanity on trial. Fine, but they'll find we don't make easy defendants. Reed faced his crew. Set course for the Nova Tribunal. We're not waiting for Judgment Day to come to us. Sir, Taylor protested. That's suicide. We don't even know where this tribunal is. Reed looked at their prisoner. He does, and he's going to tell us. Vex laughed. You truly are as reckless as the stories say, warrior. The Nova judges fear humans because you do things no rational species would attempt, like taking the fight directly to beings who think they're gods. Reed asked. Exactly, Vex replied, his laughter fading. They will destroy you. Reed leaned close to the alien. Maybe. But here's something your judges don't understand about humans. We don't fear judgment. We challenge it. As the Intrepid's engines powered up, Reed returned to his command chair. The path ahead was dangerous, possibly suicidal. But humanity's freedom to determine its own destiny was worth any risk. The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying the warrior toward a confrontation no human had ever faced before. The Intrepid sailed through a region of space no human vessel had ever entered. Stars here were scattered in strange patterns, and the laws of physics seemed to bend in unpredictable ways. Sensors are barely functioning, reported Dr. Wells from her station. Space itself seems different here. Captain Reed nodded, his face troubled. For 3 nights, he had barely slept. When he did close his eyes, nightmares waited for him. Visions of a tall, glowing figure standing in judgment over Earth, raising a hand to erase humanity from existence. How much farther? Reed asked their prisoner. Commander Vex sat on the bridge under guard, his blue skin looking pale. The boundary is ahead. Beyond it lies the domain of the Nova judges. On the view screen, space itself seemed to ripple like water. I've never seen anything like this, Taylor muttered. Reed gripped the arms of his command chair tighter. Something about this place felt familiar, though he knew he'd never been here before. Sir, Blake called from Tactical. I'm detecting something large ahead. On screen, Reed ordered. The view screen showed a vast field of debris stretching for millions of kilometers. As they drew closer, the crew fell silent in shock. These weren't just random fragments of rock and metal. They were ships, thousands of them, from countless different civilizations. A graveyard, Trell whispered. The remains of those who challenged the judges. Reed stood, approaching the view screen. Scan for life signs. Sir. Wells looked confused. Just do it, Reed insisted. Wells ran the scan, then gasped. There are life signs, scattered throughout the debris field. Hundreds of them. Survivors, Reed said grimly, gathering a rescue team. We're going out there. Vex laughed bitterly. Those aren't survivors, Captain. They're the sentenced, species deemed unworthy of continued evolution, but not deserving of extinction. The judges leave them here as examples. Reed's jaw tightened. All the more reason to get them out. The shuttle carefully navigated through the debris field. Reed led the rescue team himself, along with Blake, Wells, and 2 security officers. What they found in the wrecked ships shocked even Reed's battle-hardened heart. Beings from a dozen different species lived in the ruins, creating makeshift colonies among the destroyed vessels. Some had been here for generations, their original crime against the Nova judges long forgotten. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms approached Reed's team. Visitors or new prisoners? It asked in a rasping voice. Neither, Reed replied. We're here to help. The alien studied Reed. Humans, we've heard of your kind. The judges speak of you often, with concern. Why? Wells asked. What have we done? You evolve too quickly. Change too readily. The judges prefer species they can predict. The alien gestured around at the debris field. All of us here share that quality. Unpredictability. Reed looked around at the makeshift society. How many of you are there? Nearly 3,000 from 17 condemned species, the alien replied. I am Elder Ziv of the Kellen. We were sentenced here 500 years ago. For what crime? Blake asked. We developed technology that could hide our thoughts from the judges, Ziv explained. They claimed it threatened the balance. Reed nodded. We can evacuate as many as possible. Our ship can. No, Ziv interrupted. The judges monitor this place. Any mass escape would bring their wrath. But you? Ziv studied Reed closely. You bear the mark. What mark? Reed asked. Ziv reached out, touching Reed's temple with one long finger. Here, the neural signature. You've encountered a judge before. Reed stepped back, confused. No, I haven't. Dr. Wells quickly scanned Reed with her medical device. Her eyes widened. Captain, there's something in your brain. Some kind of neural implant. It's very advanced. That's impossible, Reed protested. But even as he spoke, fragments of memory surfaced. A bright light, a sense of being examined, and a voice that seemed to echo from the stars themselves. When was your first command? Ziv asked. The UES Defiant, 15 years ago. Reed replied automatically. We were charting the Sigma sector when... Reed stopped, his face going pale. When we lost 3 days. The crew and I. We thought it was a virus that affected our memories. You were judged, Ziv said simply. And marked for observation. Wells continued scanning. The implant seems designed to activate fully when exposed to specific energy patterns. It's been dormant, but it's becoming more active the closer we get to Nova space. Reed's hand went to his temple. Get it out. I don't think that's wise, sir, Wells replied. It's integrated with your neural pathways. Removing it could cause brain damage. Reed was about to respond when Blake shouted a warning. Captain, we've got company. Through the debris field came a sleek vessel with a pulsing blue hull. Unlike the Crimson Fleet ships, this one moved with impossible grace, as if space itself bent to accommodate its passage. A Nova Scout, Ziv whispered in fear. They know you're here. Back aboard the Intrepid, chaos erupted. As Reed and his team returned from the debris field, alarms blared throughout the ship. Report, Reed commanded, striding onto the bridge. We've detected a sabotage attempt in engineering, Taylor explained quickly. Security teams found Lieutenant Cooper trying to disable our weapons systems. Reed's eyes narrowed. Cooper? He's been with us for 5 years. Security officers brought in the lieutenant, who looked at Reed with cold determination. Why? Reed demanded. Because you'll get everyone killed, Cooper replied. The Nova judges are too powerful to fight. Earth Command knew you'd disobey orders, Captain. They sent me to make sure you didn't provoke a war humanity can't win. Reed stepped closer to the traitor. Who gave you these orders? Admiral Wilson himself, Cooper said proudly. There are those in Earth government who understand the Nova judges aren't our enemies unless we make them so. They want peace. Peace through submission. Reed asked, disgusted. Peace through survival, Cooper countered. The Nova vessel is hailing us, Captain. Surrender now, and humanity might still have a chance. Reed turned to communications, put them through. The view screen flickered, and for the first time, the crew of the Intrepid saw a Nova judge. It appeared almost human, but its skin glowed from within with cosmic light. Its eyes held the depth of space itself, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. "Captain James Reed," the judge said, "you trespass where humans are not welcome." Reed stepped forward. "This galaxy doesn't belong to you. All things belong to those with wisdom to guide them," the judge replied. "Your species has been observed and found wanting. Turn back now or face judgment." Reed felt something stirring in his mind, the implant activating, filling his thoughts with memories that weren't quite his own. Knowledge of the Nova judges flowed through him, including their weaknesses. "No," Reed replied firmly. "If you want to judge humanity, you'll have to start with me." The Nova vessel fired without warning. The Intrepid rocked violently. "Evasive maneuvers," Reed ordered. "Tactical, target their propulsion systems." What followed was the most difficult battle of Reed's career. The Nova ship moved like nothing he had ever faced, anticipating the Intrepid's every maneuver. But Reed had something the judge didn't expect. The neural implant was now feeding him information about Nova technology. "Adjust phasers to rotating frequency," Reed commanded. "Fire on my mark." The Intrepid's weapons struck home, causing the Nova vessel to falter. "Again," Reed ordered. The second volley disabled the Nova ship's main systems. It drifted, damaged but not destroyed. "We did it," Taylor said in disbelief. Reed shook his head. "No, we just announced our presence." He turned to navigation. "Set course for the coordinates Ziv gave us. It's time we took this fight to the heart of Nova space." As the Intrepid jumped away, Reed touched his temple, feeling the implant pulse beneath his skin. The Nova judges had made a critical mistake years ago. They had marked Reed for observation, but in doing so, they had given him the very knowledge he needed to fight them. The warrior was coming for the judges, and no force in the universe would stand in his way. The Intrepid slowed from hyperspace, emerging into a region of space that defied human understanding. Before them hung an enormous structure, not quite a space station, not quite a planet, built around a dying star. The star's light pulsed in strange patterns, like a heartbeat growing weaker. "That's it," Vex said, his voice filled with awe. "The Court of Stars, the center of the Nova judges' domain." Captain Reed stood at the viewscreen, his face illuminated by the dying star's glow. The neural implant in his brain pulsed in rhythm with the star, sending waves of information through his mind. "There are 17 judges," Reed said, the knowledge flowing from the implant, each one responsible for judging different aspects of a species' worth. Dr. Wells looked at him with concern. "Captain, the implant's activity is increasing. Your brain chemistry is changing." Reed nodded. "I can feel it. I'm remembering things. Knowledge that isn't mine." Commander Taylor stepped closer. "Sir, are you sure you're fit for command?" "I'm fine," Reed insisted. "The implant is giving us an advantage. It knows this place, these beings." The Intrepid sensors detected hundreds of ships surrounding the massive structure, representing dozens of alien civilizations. "Why are so many ships gathered here?" Blake asked. "To witness judgment," Vex explained. "The Nova judges are preparing to pass sentence on another species." Reed's expression hardened. "We need to get inside. See what happens during these judgments." "That's impossible," Vex protested. "Only invited representatives may enter the court." Reed turned to him with a cold smile. "Then we'll have to get an invitation." 4 hours later, Reed led a small team toward the Court of Stars in a confiscated Crimson Fleet shuttle. With them was Vex, securely restrained but necessary for his knowledge. "The Crimson Fleet serves as the judges' enforcers," Vex explained as they approached the massive structure. "We'll be granted entry, but you'll need to maintain your disguise." Reed, Wells, Blake, and Trell wore modified crimson armor, their faces hidden behind the alien helmets. The shuttle docked at one of the thousands of entry ports along the structure's surface. "Remember," Reed told his team, "We're here to observe only. Stay hidden, stay quiet." They passed through security without incident, Vex's credentials granting them access. Inside, the Court of Stars was even more impossible than outside. Corridors shifted and changed direction without warning. Gravity fluctuated. Light seemed to have substance, flowing like water through the air. "This place doesn't follow normal physics," Wells whispered, studying her scanner. "It's like reality itself is being bent." Reed felt the implant in his brain guiding him. "This way," he said, turning down a corridor that seemed to lead nowhere until they approached it. They emerged onto a balcony overlooking an enormous chamber. Below them, thousands of alien beings sat in concentric circles around a central platform. Above the platform, the dying star was visible through a transparent ceiling, its light focused into a beam that touched the center of the platform. "What are we seeing?" Blake asked quietly. "Judgment," Vex replied. "Watch." On the platform stood several small, insect-like beings. Their exoskeletons glistened in the starlight as they chittered nervously. Facing them were 3 Nova judges, their glowing forms towering over the aliens. "Species 8219, designation Threen," announced one of the judges, its voice resonating through the chamber without seeming to use sound. "You stand before us for final judgment." "We have committed no crime," one of the insect beings protested. "Our people have always been peaceful." "Peace is not the measure," the judge replied. "Evolution is. Your kind has shown concerning developments." Images appeared in the air above the platform. The Threen world, their technology, their culture. The implant in Reed's brain translated the information for him. The Threen had developed technology that allowed them to communicate instantaneously across vast distances, creating a hive mind among their species. "Your collective consciousness threatens the balance," the judge continued. "It could evolve beyond our ability to monitor. This cannot be permitted." "But it is who we are," the Threen representative pleaded. "To deny us this evolution is to deny our very nature." The judge raised a glowing hand. "The judgment is extinction." Reed's body tensed. Around the chamber, the assembled aliens watched in silence as the beam of starlight intensified. The 3 beings on the platform began to dissolve, their bodies turning to light that was absorbed back into the star. Blake couldn't finish the sentence. "Murdered them," Reed said coldly. "And their entire species with them. The star sends the extinction command to their homeworld." Wells looked sick behind her helmet. "This isn't justice, it's genocide." "The judges believe they're preserving the galaxy's balance," Vex said quietly. "They eliminate species that might one day challenge their power." "How many have they killed?" Trell asked. "Hundreds over the millennia," Vex replied. "Maybe thousands." Reed felt rage building inside him. "We need to get out of here. Now." As they turned to leave, Reed came face to face with a Nova judge. It towered over him, its light pulsing with curious patterns. "Your disguise does not fool us, human," the judge said directly into Reed's mind. "We have been waiting for you, James Reed." Before his team could react, they were surrounded by crimson soldiers. Reed reached for his weapon, but found his body wouldn't respond. "Your neural implant," the judge explained. "It has been activating gradually, giving you knowledge. But it also gives us control when needed." Reed fought against the invisible force paralyzing him. "What do you want from me?" "You were marked 15 years ago as a representative specimen of humanity. Your species is unusual, unpredictable, chaotic. We have been studying you through the implant." The judge moved closer, its light enveloping Reed. "It is time for your memories to be harvested." Reed awoke on the judgment platform. His team was nowhere to be seen. Above him, the dying star pulsed with malevolent light. Around him stood 7 Nova judges, their glowing forms creating a circle. "James Reed," the lead judge spoke. "You stand before the Nova Council not as an individual, but as a representative of humanity." Reed tried to move but found himself held in place by invisible forces. I don't represent anyone but myself. Incorrect, the judge replied. The neural implant contains not just your memories, but the collective experience of humanity. Through you, we have watched your species develop. And what's your verdict? Reed asked bitterly. Extinction. Containment. Humanity was judged long ago, another judge said. Your current evaluation is merely confirmation. Reed felt the implant in his brain growing hotter. Memories flooded him, not just his own, but hundreds, thousands of human experiences. The implant hadn't just been recording his life. It had been collecting data from everyone he interacted with, building a vast library of human experience. You've been watching us all along, Reed realized. The implant spreads like a virus, copying itself into the minds of those I meet. Your species was sentenced to containment 50 years ago, the lead judge explained. But certain among your kind discovered our monitors. They have been working to prevent our judgment from being executed. Earth Command, Reed whispered. Admiral Wilson and the others. They know about you. They sought compromise, the judge said dismissively. They offered to limit human expansion in exchange for continued autonomy. But your actions, Warrior, have proven our original assessment correct. Humans cannot be trusted with freedom. The star's light intensified, focusing on Reed. He felt the implant heating to unbearable levels. Your mind will now be dissected, the judge announced. All human knowledge within the implant network will be extracted. Then the extinction protocol will be initiated. Reed closed his eyes, fighting against the burning in his brain. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. You know, he said through gritted teeth, for beings that claim to be all-knowing judges, you've made one crucial mistake. Explain, the judge demanded. Reed opened his eyes, meeting the cosmic gaze without fear. You've given me access to your knowledge through this implant. I know your laws better than you do. The judges shifted, their light patterns showing confusion. By your own ancient code, Reed continued, any species facing extinction has the right to trial by combat against their accuser. I invoke that right now. The judges conferred silently, their lights pulsing in patterns too complex for normal human perception. But Reed, with the enhanced neural implant, could interpret their debate. The right has not been invoked in 7,000 years, the lead judge finally said. But it still exists, Reed insisted. Your law is absolute, isn't it? Or do you break your own rules when convenient? The chamber fell silent. The assembled alien representatives watched in shock as Reed challenged the Nova judges on their own terms. Very well, the lead judge finally agreed. Trial by combat is granted. But understand, human, this is not physical combat. It is a battle of minds. Few have survived the experience. Reed stood straighter as the invisible restraints released him. I'm ready. The lead judge approached, its glowing form expanding. Then let judgment begin. The star above flared brilliantly, and Reed's world dissolved into light. Reed stood in a vast empty space. There were no walls, no floor, no ceiling, just endless white light stretching in all directions. Before him stood the high judge, its glowing form towering and pulsing with cosmic energy. The trial begins, the judge announced, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Your mind against mine, human. Few have ever survived such a contest. Reed felt strangely calm. What are the rules? The judge's light flickered in what might have been amusement. There are no rules in a battle of minds. Only will against will, reality against reality. The white space suddenly transformed. Reed found himself standing on Earth, but not the Earth he knew. This world was burning. Cities collapsed into ruins as humans fought each other with savage weapons. This is humanity's true nature, the judge's voice explained as scenes of war and destruction played out around Reed. Chaos, violence, self-destruction. Reed watched as people killed each other over resources, over beliefs, over simple misunderstandings. The scenes were painful to witness, but he stood firm. You're showing only part of the truth, Reed replied, "Yes, we fight. We destroy. But that's not all we are." Using the neural implant's connection to the judge's mind, Reed pushed back. The burning landscape shifted, showing humans helping each other after disasters, building communities, creating art and music, exploring space with wonder rather than conquest. "This is also humanity," Reed insisted. "We contain both light and darkness. That's what you fear, isn't it? That we can't be predicted or controlled because we're always both." The judge seemed to grow larger, its light burning brighter. "Your unpredictability threatens the galaxy's order. All species must evolve along paths we can foresee." The scene changed again. Reed found himself on the bridge of the Intrepid, but something was wrong. His crew looked at him with cold, identical expressions. "This is what we offer," the judge explained. "Order, certainty, peace." Reed understood immediately. "You want to remake humanity in your image. Make us predictable." "It is mercy," the judge replied. "The alternative is extinction." Meanwhile, on the real Intrepid, Commander Taylor paced the bridge nervously. "It's been 12 hours with no word from the captain. We need to do something." Dr. Wells, who had returned with Blake and Trell after being separated from Reed, worked frantically at her console. "The neural implant in the captain's brain is transmitting data. Massive amounts of it." "To where?" Taylor asked. "Back to us," Wells replied, surprised. "It's sending us everything it knows about the Nova judges, their technology, their history, their weaknesses." Trell joined them, his 4 eyes wide with excitement. "I think I understand. The captain isn't just fighting for his life in there. He's fighting for information." "Can we help him?" Taylor asked. "Maybe," Wells replied. "The implant works both ways. If we can broadcast a signal back through it, strengthen his connection to us." "Do it," Taylor ordered. "There's more," Blake added from Tactical. "The captain is also transmitting to the alien ships gathered here. He's showing them what the judges really are." In the mind battle, Reed fought against overwhelming power. The judge bombarded him with visions of humanity's worst atrocities, trying to make him accept their judgment. "You wage war," the judge accused. "You destroy environments. You create weapons capable of ending all life." "Yes," Reed admitted. "We do terrible things, but we also learn from our mistakes. We grow. We change." "Change is chaos," the judge insisted. Reed felt something new, a connection strengthening in his mind. His crew was reaching out to him through the implant, sending their support, their trust. With renewed strength, Reed pushed back against the judge's visions. "You call yourselves judges, but you're really just afraid. Afraid of anything you can't control." The white space flickered as Reed's will contested the judge's reality. Around them, scenes from Earth's history played out. Wars giving way to peace, destruction followed by rebuilding, hatred transformed into understanding. "This is what makes us human," Reed explained. "Not just our capacity for violence, but our ability to overcome it. We judge ourselves more harshly than you ever could." The judge seemed to falter. "You cannot be trusted with your own evolution. Look at what you might become." A new vision appeared. Humans evolved into beings of pure energy, similar to the judges themselves, spreading across the galaxy and beyond. Reed smiled. "So that's what this is really about. You're afraid we'll become like you someday." "You would replace us," the judge admitted, "as all children eventually replace their parents." "That's not something to fear," Reed replied. "It's something to be proud of." Reed sensed the battle shifting in his favor. Using knowledge from the implant, he pushed deeper into the judge's mind, discovering its true nature. The Nova judges had once been physical beings themselves, evolving over millions of years into creatures of energy and thought. They had appointed themselves guardians of evolution, determining which species deserved to advance and which needed to be contained or destroyed. "You're not gods," Reed said firmly. "You're just an older species, afraid of being surpassed." As they fought, Reed was also broadcasting everything he learned to the assembled alien representatives watching the trial. Through the neural implants connection, he showed them the judge's secret fears, their manipulations, their lies. The judge sensed what was happening and attacked with renewed fury. "You disrupt the order of ages." "Good," Reed replied, standing his ground. "It's time for a new order." On the Intrepid, Wells watched in amazement as alien ships began breaking formation, moving away from the Court of Stars. "They're leaving," she reported. "The representatives are abandoning the judges." Taylor leaned forward. "What's happening with the captain?" "His neural patterns are stabilizing," Wells replied. I think he's winning." In the white space, Reed stood face to face with the High Judge, whose light had dimmed considerably. "You have revealed our nature to those we judge," the being said, its voice weaker than before. "They will no longer accept our authority." "They shouldn't," Reed replied. "No species should have the power to judge whether another deserves to exist. We all have the right to find our own path." The judge's form seemed to shrink. "Without our guidance, the galaxy will fall into chaos." "Maybe," Reed admitted. "Or maybe it will find a better balance, one based on cooperation rather than fear." The white space began to dissolve around them, reality reasserting itself. Reed found himself back on the judgment platform. Around him, the chamber was nearly empty, most of the alien representatives having fled. The 7 Nova judges stood in a circle, their light significantly dimmed. "You have won the trial by combat," the High Judge acknowledged. "By our own law, humanity is spared judgment." Reed stood tall, facing them without fear. "Not just humanity. All species deserve freedom from your judgment." "You demand too much," another judge protested. "No," Reed replied firmly. "I'm offering you something instead. A new role. Not as judges, but as teachers. Share your knowledge, but let each species choose its own path." The judges conferred silently among themselves. Finally, the High Judge spoke. "We will consider your proposal. The age of judgment is ended. What comes next remains to be seen." 3 weeks later, the Intrepid approached Earth. Reed stood on the bridge, watching as the blue planet grew larger on the view screen. "You did it, sir," Taylor said with admiration. "You changed the entire galaxy." Reed shook his head. "We all did, and our work is just beginning." The neural implant had been safely removed once they left Nova space. With it had come vast knowledge of technologies and sciences that would advance humanity by centuries. More importantly, Earth now had a voice in a new galactic community forming from the ashes of the judge's reign. "Admiral Wilson is requesting to speak with you," Jones reported from communications. Reed smiled. "Tell him I'll be happy to report after shore leave." As the Intrepid entered Earth orbit, Reed recorded his final log entry. The Nova judges believed fear was necessary for order. They feared change, unpredictability, chaos. But fear is the enemy of understanding. What they never grasped is that true strength comes not from judging others, but from facing the unknown with courage and an open mind. Humanity will make mistakes as we join the wider galactic community, but they'll be our mistakes to make and learn from. And that's exactly as it should be. This is Captain James Reed of the UES Intrepid. End log. The warrior who feared no judge had returned home, bringing with him a future where humanity would judge itself, not be judged by others.